Hi sewing friends, welcome back. So today we are going to do a neckline hack for the New Look N6766. We are actually going to create a more higher neckline and give more coverage to this plunging neckline here. So instead of having a plunging neckline, we are going to raise it just a little bit and add a little bit more coverage to this area here. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into today's video. And let's first start with the mock-up or the muslin. So this is my mock-up for this project. And I highly encourage you to make a mock-up because it will tell you everything you need to know in terms of how much coverage you want in your garment. So I will go ahead and put a video here. And in that video, you'll see this on my dress form, so you can actually see how you can actually find out where you want your coverage to be. So for me, what I did was I measured from the shoulder line to the fullest part of my bust. So where the fullest part of my bust starts and where the fullest part of my bust ends. And so in between these 2 points, I know I want more coverage in this area. So I'm going to share with you what that looks like on the flat pattern. But first, just go ahead and make that mark on your garment yourself. So remember that these seams are sewn. And so if you take the measurement from your muslin, just make sure that you take it from the seam line. And when you go over to your pattern, you are actually going to measure from your seam line and not from the beginning of the seam allowance. And I'll share with you what I'm talking about here. So calculating the distance from this center front to the cleavage area that was poking out of the garment, I know that I want somewhere in the ballpark of 1 to 1 3/4 inch of additional fabric in this area here. So I want to make adjustments for that on the flat pattern. So keep in mind that when we're working with the flat pattern, we're working with one pattern piece, but that piece is going to be double. So whatever measurements or whatever we add to the pattern, that's going to be double. So say for instance, if I add a 1/2 inch to this side here, there will be a 1/2 inch on this side and a 1/2 inch on that side. So just keep that in mind that when you are doing that, say for instance, if you add 1 inch of coverage, you're going to get 2 inches in this area here. So with that said, let's go ahead and start working with the pattern block and make our adjustments. So now we're going to take some tracing paper and we're going to put some tracing paper down on our grid. And we are going to try to make those adjustments here. So we have our pattern block here, but we also want a small piece of cardboard or something that we can actually pivot on because we don't want the shoulder line to move very much. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this cardboard and lay it underneath of our pattern. And then we're going to put a pin right here at the very top to secure it in place. So there we have a pin there to secure it in place. Next, what we want to do is we want to draw a line indicating where our outer neckline is. So we're going to go ahead and draw that line so we know exactly where it's at. All the way down and all the way up. That's where our line is. And now I know from taking measurements that I want to go out about maybe 3/4 of an inch, about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch out of this first line here. And the second line, I want to go out about 1 inch because we are grading out. And when you grade out, sometimes it's better to kind of like grade out instead of trying to keep that line straight. So now what we want to do, we want to pivot our pattern to that line. So you see the line there. We want to go ahead and pivot the pattern to this line. And you'll see that this line here down here, as I'm pivoting it, it goes past the 1 inch mark. That's completely fine. That just means we're going to have more coverage there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw that line. So remember, we want to keep this part here stabilized because we don't want it to move. So we're going to go ahead and draw this new line where we want our wrap to come out at. Make sure that it's straight against your pattern. I went over a little bit. Okay. And when you pivot back over, you'll see your line is right there when you pivot back over. So that's how much coverage we are putting into the pattern here. So let's go ahead and let's remove the cardboard. Keep your hands pressed on here. Try not to move it. And let's go ahead and finish creating that line going upwards. Just try to make everything straight and neat as possible. Okay, let's pivot back over. Keep your hand on that. Pivot back over just like this. And we're going to go ahead and tape this in place. We're going to go ahead and fix the bottom here. We're going to make sure that we connect the lines here going across just like that. And we want to make sure that we continue our center front line just like that, so we know where the center front is. You can go ahead and draw your seam allowance down here if you want. And now we can cut this pattern piece out. Okay, and so here is our modified front pattern piece here. Just remember, this is the short and lengthen line, so you want to go all the way over. Let's go ahead and put this line on the grid so we can get a nice straight line. And we want to go all the way over and continue that short and lengthen line. So if you want to shorten and lengthen it in the future, you know where to shorten and lengthen that at. We extended this bottom pattern piece here. So I extended it about a little over 2.5 inches, almost 3 inches. And so just keep in mind that when you're attaching your skirt, that this here mark, this notch indicates where you're going to put your skirt pattern piece. So just make sure that you include this part into the wrap, that it's completely wrapped over, and that your center front, your two bodice pieces are overlapped at the center front, so that you don't disrupt the notch or you don't disrupt your skirt when you're attaching your skirt, so it can fit to your dress. So just keep that in mind, that this needs to be into that, included into that wrap portion. Otherwise, your calculations for your skirt will be off. So that is my tutorial on how you can increase your neckline here, or raise it a little bit so that you can have a little bit more coverage to your cleavage of a wrap style bodice. So if this video was helpful for you, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. I hope to talk to you all in the next video, and I hope you have a creative and blessed sewing week. Bye.